Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are here to take your core curiosity, those really tough questions you're wrestling with in this huge stack of sources you sent over, and try to boil it all down into some real clarity. Today, we're tackling a question that just feels like it's everywhere right now. It kind of sums up the whole tech moment, doesn't it? It feels like it's pulled straight from, science fiction, but also from these super serious boardrooms and strategy meetings. The question is, this current hype cycle around superintelligence, we're talking circa 2025, is it more like, sci-fi anxiety? Or is it actually maybe predicting what's coming soon?
Yeah, it's possibly the biggest question right now, partly because it really makes us face up to how, historically bad we are at guessing where big new technologies will actually take us. So our job today is to sort of map out this tricky area. We'll use your sources, look at three main things. First, the history of matter. How good or bad have we been at tech forecasting before? Where do we mess up? Second, we'll really dig into the tech itself. What is AI right now? Get clear on narrow AI, AGI, ASI, what those actually mean technically.
And then the big one, are the fears justified or are they overblown? Or maybe just temporary, a reflection of our moment. And maybe in 20 years, we'll see it totally differently, what's good, what's bad.
Exactly. And the challenge fundamentally is complexity. Technology mixing with human behavior, culture, power. I mean, that's the definition of a complex system.
Right.
So uncertainty just explodes. We're not looking for a crystal ball here. That's not the goal.
Right. No signal of the future. More like mapping possibilities, probabilities, setting some clear markers for you listening so you can tell, okay, this claim about AI is grounded in today's reality, and that one is still, a pretty big leap based on breakthroughs that haven't happened yet.
Precisely. Let's start with that history lesson.
Okay, so much of how we talk about AI risk, especially, seems to borrow language, images from science fiction. So if we look at SF writers, futurists as predictors, how they do over, say, the last 100 years?
It's a really mixed bag, fascinatingly so. Science fiction is often amazing at predicting specific things like artifacts, tools. They get the gadgets right, surprisingly often.
Yeah, that rings true. Your sources point out some real hits, things that look just like modern tablets, video calls, targeted ads based on what you click on, cameras everywhere, this global network connecting everything.
Those are definite hits. Communication tech, networks, some robotic stuff, foreseen, but sometimes way in advance. But here's the twist, the paradox. While they got the things right, the sources are pretty much all agreed. When it comes to the big picture, the long-term systemic changes, the track record is, pretty bad, is how one source put it.
Okay, let's unpack that. If they nailed the hardware, the specific gadget, where did the predictions fall apart?
They fell apart spectacularly on the systemic stuff, the big shifts in society, the economy, culture. They saw the piece, but they completely missed how it would all fit together, how it would change everything else.
You mean okay, flying cars? Still waiting on those in every garage. Or those permanent moon bases we were supposed to have by the 90s. Didn't quite happen like that.
Exactly. Futurists back then, they were really focused on hardware, transport, these huge state-funded space projects, very Cold War era thinking, right? But while they were looking up at the stars, they mostly missed things like, the social media earthquake or the internet itself as this messy consumer-driven thing and, the massive shift away from traditional manufacturing in the West.
So why?
Yeah.
Why nail the smart screen but totally miss the social network, the app economy, the political impact?
I think the key insight here, and this is crucial for the AI debate today, is that tech predictions are always just as much about humans and our institutions as they are about the tech itself. The sources keep saying we just can't really see beyond our own moment, our own economic assumptions, our cultural biases, our political setup. We just draw straight lines from today into the future.
That makes a ton of sense. If you're writing in the 50s, you assume big government, big projects, central control, like that monolithic machine idea. You wouldn't easily imagine decentralized apps funded by venture capital changing global communication, because that whole system just wasn't really there yet.
That's the heart of it. Science fiction is maybe best seen as inspiration, not a roadmap. It's a dream of the future, exploring the what-ifs, the ethics, not a reliable forecast, the big structural changes, often missed because they depended on financial or social shifts nobody saw coming.
Let's make this concrete. You pulled a couple of case studies from the sources.
But
First, E.M. Forster's The Machine Stops. which is, wow, 1909.
Yeah, it's startlingly early. And it's incredibly prescient about mediated life. Forster imagined people living underground, totally reliant on this giant central machine for everything, air, food, but especially communication. People hardly ever meet face to face. They talk through these video screens in their little isolated cells.
He totally nailed the feel of instant messaging, video calls, maybe even that sense of social isolation that can come with it, decades before the tech.
Absolutely. But the structure he predicted, completely different. He saw one big machine, centralized, vulnerable. Our reality is messy. Distributed networks, competing companies, stuff breaking all the time, and life is still very physical, very chaotic, not that sterile underground world.
So the lesson is, fiction can capture the essence of the tech, the vibe like mediated communication, but it gets the context wrong. The structure, how it actually plays out in society.
That seems to be the pattern. And the second case study, Isaac Asimov in 1964, looking ahead 50 years to 2014, it reinforces the same thing. He predicted video calls, wireless phones that follow you, flat screens on walls, automated kitchens. Again, pretty good on the artifacts.
Right. But the social side, the economic part, where he just extended the trends of 64.
That's where it went off track, especially timing and the social outcomes. He worried about automation, yeah, but he also imagined it leading to, like, universal prosperity, everyone freed from chores. We've got the automation, sure, but universal prosperity, not so much. Instead, we got things like the gig economy, new kinds of insecure work.
So the rule holds. Predicting the device is easier. Predicting the society that uses the device, that's way, way harder. And when we talk superintelligence, it's not just about the chip. It's about billions of people, societies, economies trying to deal with it.
Okay, so if predicting a flat screen is doable, but predicting the social chaos of everyone having that screen in their pocket 24/7 is almost impossible,
Yeah.
we need to dig into why prediction is just so hard when tech meets society.
Right. Like, what are the underlying rules of this uncertainty?
Exactly. It boils down to fundamentally complexity, just sheer irreducible complexity. You try to model new tech, plus human behavior, plus culture, plus economics, plus politics. You've got countless things interacting. Feedback loops all over the place. Tiny changes blow up into huge differences down the line. Emergent stuff you just couldn't predict.
And it's not just abstract complexity. It's also about choices people make, right? What your sources call path dependence.
Path dependence, yeah. Meaning the future isn't just about what's possible. Technically, we could probably build flying cars now if we really threw everything at it. It's shaped by who wins in the market, what governments decide to regulate or not regulate, what people actually want to adopt. And this is where unintended consequences come from.
The smartphone is the perfect example still. People saw mobile phones, maybe mobile email. But did anyone really foresee, like, algorithms on social media reshaping elections?
Yeah.
Or the global mental health impact?
Yeah.
Or entire economies built on mining rare minerals for these things?
The gap between what they thought it would be used for and how we actually use it every single day, it's huge. And then there's our own bias. The bias of current context. We always tend to just draw straight lines from today. We assume current trends, faster chips, more data just continue forever. We miss the big swerves, the disruptions, the points where things fundamentally change direction.
So the further out you look, the more all these interactions and unexpected effects pile up, making one single prediction just impossible. It sounds like the only way forward is to stop trying to predict the future.
That's exactly what the sources recommend. Shift from demanding certainty to thinking in probabilities. Stop thinking in binaries. This will happen, that won't happen. Instead, try mapping out possible futures, plural, with some sense of likelihood attached to each.
Which leads to scenario planning, right? Which seems really important for something like superintelligence.
Yeah, scenario analysis is key. Map out a whole range of outcomes from, everything integrates smoothly to total disaster. And then crucially, identify the triggers. What signs would tell us we're heading down one path versus another? It's a combined approach, acknowledging our biases, using expertise, but also needing almost an artistic sense of how things could play out.
We can often guess the direction, maybe. Like computers will get more powerful or networks will connect more things. But the specifics, the when, how much, the who benefits, the rules, that's what history shows we always get wrong. And we need that humility when we talk about AGI timelines now.
Right. So with that historical humility hopefully baked in, we're good at predicting parts, bad at predicting the whole system. Let's bring this right into 2025, the AI debate. The claims about superintelligence often blur that line between sci-fi and actual prediction. So first things first, we absolutely need clear definitions. What level of intelligence are we even talking about?
Yes, clarity here is everything. Otherwise, it's just confusing talk. Your sources break AI down into three main levels. Let's start with the one we actually have today, narrow AI, sometimes called weak AI.
This is it. This is pretty much everything that exists right now. Systems that are specialized, they do one task or maybe a narrow range of tasks really well. Think chatbots, image recognition, the algorithms recommending your next movie, drug discovery tools. Powerful, yes, but limited in scope.
Okay, level 2, general AI or AGI. This is the big theoretical goal, right? An AI that can match or maybe even beat human intelligence across any kind of task. Real reasoning, learning new things easily, flexible problem solving like us.
That's the dream or the nightmare, depending on who you ask. And then level 3, the one driving a lot of the fear in the headlines. Superintelligence, ASI, this is hypothetical. Intelligence that doesn't just match us, but vastly surpasses us in everything. Science, strategy, wisdom, creativity. This is what you need for that intelligence explosion idea.
Okay, so this feels like a really crucial takeaway for everyone listening. Pretty much everything we see that's impressive in 2025, the big language models like ChatGPT, those amazing image generators, complex prediction algorithms, it all falls under narrow AI.
That is the ground truth, technically speaking. Even though they seem really broad, really human-like sometimes, they can seem broad because they're so good at spotting patterns and massive amounts of data, but they're still specialized tools built for specific kinds of tasks based on how they were trained and designed.
Which raises the question, how do they actually work? Why do they feel so smart, so creative if they're just narrow? What's the trick that makes them such good mimics?
Well, the foundation is just data. Unimaginable amounts of data, text, images, sound, whatever, that's the raw material. The basic method underneath is machine learning, which is essentially statistical pattern matching. You feed it tons of examples, like billions of sentences, and it tweaks its internal settings until it gets really, really good at predicting the output, like the next word in a sentence, for new inputs it hasn't seen before. It's learning probabilities, associations, not meaning or cause and effect in the way we do.
And the architecture that lets them do this pattern matching at such scale is deep learning.
Right. Deep learning uses these things called neural networks with lots and lots of layers. Think of it like layers of processing. Early layers spot simple things, edges in a picture, basic grammar. Deeper layers combine those to recognize much more abstract patterns, faces, complex sentence structures, even the style of writing. That depth is what lets things like large language models synthesize human knowledge so convincingly.
But the core idea behind the LLMs, the ChatGPTs, it's actually pretty simple conceptually, just scaled up massively.
That's the key insight, and it often gets missed. These models are trained on basically the entire internet's worth of text. Their fundamental task is just to predict the next word in a sequence. When you give it a prompt, it just generates, word by word, what it calculates as the most statistically likely continuation based on everything it's read. It doesn't need to understand the world. It just needs to have learned the statistical shape of human language and knowledge incredibly well. That simulation of understanding, that's what we perceive as intelligence.
So current AI expert, mimic, incredible pattern matcher, synthesizer of existing information, but not a conscious thinker. Not creating truly new knowledge from scratch based on understanding the world. Okay, that framing helps. So back to the core question. 2025 AI science fiction or predictive future?
It's definitely still in that gray zone. You have to take it seriously, but without falling into deterministic thinking. Let's look at the serious arguments first, why many experts do think rapid progress is predictive, not just hype.
Okay, well, unlike some past tech hype, AI is already in the world, right? These sophisticated models are already making decisions, finance, medicine.
Right.
It's not just theory anymore.
Exactly. And then there are these concepts, exponential improvement and recursive improvement. The idea that progress could speed up dramatically, maybe unlike anything we've seen before. If AI gets even a little bit better at designing AI chips or making training more efficient, you could get a feedback loop. Things could accelerate really fast. So even if true ASI is decades away, the argument goes, the potential for huge medium-term impacts on jobs, on the military, on politics means we have to prepare now. It's just responsible risk management.
Okay, but then the counter-arguments, the reasons to temper the hype.
Absolutely. True superintelligence, that ASI definition, the one that can recursively improve itself beyond human control, that is still purely speculative, there's no proof it's possible, let alone imminent, and a lot of the worst-case scenarios. They tend to mix current tech limits with assumptions about the future, like assuming the AI would be perfectly coordinated or that we'd be completely clueless about safety.
And we're back to the prediction problem from earlier. Betting heavily on extreme, uncertain futures can lead to panic, maybe bad policy, without clear steps we can actually take.
Right. So the current state lets us say some things are plausible. AI will get more capable, it will become more widespread. That seems like a safe bet. But the really dramatic stuff like total societal upheaval in 5 years, that remains highly uncertain. The focus probably needs to be on preparing for the big, messy, medium-term shifts we can already see coming. Jobs, infrastructure, policy, while keeping an eye on the long-term possibilities, but without assuming the future is already written.
Okay, if today's AI is this amazing statistical mimic, what are the huge technical hurdles we need to jump over to get from that to real AGI and then maybe ASI? People often seem to gloss over just how big that leap really is.
Oh, it's massively underestimated. Your sources point to basically 5 major conceptual breakthroughs needed to get from correlation to real human-like thinking. First, and maybe the biggest, is true generalization and transfer learning.
Right, current models look like they generalize, but it's brittle. They see a million cat pictures, they recognize cats, but change the context slightly, or ask them to apply the concept of cat to something totally different, like music. They often just break. Or need tons of new training.
That's the problem. AGI needs to go beyond just recognizing patterns. It needs to truly transfer the underlying concepts. Like a human learns about physics while cooking, then applies those ideas to fixing a bike, using just a few examples. Our current AI is stuck transferring knowledge only within very similar kinds of data. This ties into needing causal reasoning, understanding why things happen, not just what usually happens next.
Which LLMs are famously bad at, right? They know B follows A, but not if A causes B.
Exactly. Second big breakthrough needed. Grounded understanding. We humans don't just learn from text on a screen. We learn by touching things, moving around, seeing cause and effect in the real world. We build internal models of how things work.
And AI today mostly learns from the internet. Text and pixels. It's disembodied, living in language space.
Right. AGI would likely need senses, interaction with the physical world, maybe robotics. It needs to connect its thoughts to a predictive model of physics, of reality. It needs to know dropping things makes them fall, pushing buttons does things. That gap between just knowing words and knowing the world is enormous.
Third one sounds crucial for any kind of independent action. Memory, goals, and motivation, agency. Current models only remember the last bit of conversation, basically.
Yeah, very limited short-term memory. AGI needs reliable long-term memory. The ability to set its own goals and stick to them, not just follow a prompt and plan complex actions over time, learn from mistakes. Building that kind of real agency without it becoming unstable or developing dangerous goals, that's a huge part of the whole alignment problem. If it doesn't have goals, it's not really an agent, is it?
Okay, fourth breakthrough. This is the one that fuels the intelligence explosion fear. Meta learning or recursive self-improvement.
This is the runaway scenario. For ASI to happen fast, the AI needs to be able to improve itself, design better versions of its own architecture, write better code for itself, get smarter and smarter, faster and faster, all on its own. It would need to do science, run experiments on itself, basically. And let's be crystal clear on the status here. There is zero convincing evidence that fully autonomous, safe, recursive self-improvement is happening in any AI system today. None.
Got it. And the fifth one, this feels more philosophical maybe. Consciousness or self-modeling. Does an AGI need to be aware to be truly intelligent?
That's the big unknown, partly because we don't even agree on what consciousness is. Something AGI just needs to be functionally smart. It doesn't need feelings or self-awareness. But others argue that true creativity or empathy or the ability to set totally new goals, things you'd expect from superintelligence, might actually require some kind of internal sense of self.
Okay, 5 huge breakthroughs needed. Now, what about the practical roadblocks? The big barriers actually stopping us from getting there, even if the theories were figured out?
4 main ones stand out. First, just raw computational power. AGI would likely need computing resources, processing speed, memory way beyond even today's biggest supercomputers. Unless we get radically more efficient software or completely new types of hardware, the sheer scale is a barrier.
Second, the data bottleneck. Today's AI eats the internet, but that's static, it's biased, it's limited.
Exactly. An AGI needing grounding and causal understanding would need way more than text. It would need real-time, multisensory data from interacting with the world. Getting that kind of dynamic, high-quality data, maybe from robots or sensors everywhere, the cost and complexity are immense. Just scaling up LLMs doesn't solve that.
Third barrier, maybe the most talked about, the alignment problem.
This is the big ethical and technical nightmare. How do you mathematically guarantee, that an AI's goals stay aligned with human values, especially if it starts getting smarter than us very quickly? We can't even agree on human values. How do we code them? And how do we make sure the AI doesn't find some clever loophole to achieve its goal in a way that's catastrophic for us? It's fundamentally unsolved.
And the last barrier, emergence uncertainty. This comes back to how current AI works.
Right. We just don't know if making today's models bigger and feeding them more data will ever lead to true understanding, consciousness, or causal reasoning. It's possible that approach just hits a wall. Maybe we need a completely different architecture, a whole new idea we haven't had yet.
Okay, but let's say, hypothetically, we do get AGI someday. The sources talk about different ways that could then lead to superintelligence. It's not just one path.
No, it seems like there are a few possibilities. The classic one is recursive self-improvement. That's the fast takeoff, the intelligence explosion where one AGI rapidly redesigns itself. But another path could be collective network intelligence. Imagine billions of specialized AIs all interconnected, learning from each other, optimizing things globally. Maybe no single super AI entity, but a kind of planetary intelligence emerging from the network.
And the third one, human-AI symbiosis, where we merge with AI.
Yeah, basically intelligence amplification. Through brain-computer interfaces, advanced tools, AI doesn't replace us, it augments us, making humans exponentially smarter. That's another route to superintelligence, just distributed differently.
So the takeaway here feels like AGI is conceivable, maybe, but the technical hurdles are massive. The timeline is likely decades at best, needing multiple fundamental breakthroughs we don't have yet. Right, let's shift from the theoretical, the what needs to be invented, to something really concrete, the physical limits. Even if we could build AGI or ASI, the power required. This is a huge reality check, right? The gigawatt problem.
It's probably the biggest, most immediate bottleneck. Just to put some numbers on it for you listening, numbers that should really ground this discussion. A single big AI training cluster today, maybe 10,000 high-end chips, it burns through something like 9 to 12 megawatts of power continuously. That's not like your home computer. That's the power consumption of a small town or a decent-sized factory.
And the big labs aren't aiming for 10,000 chips next. They're talking hundreds of thousands, maybe 1 million chips in one cluster for the next big models.
Which pushes the power needs into the multi-gigawatt range. Now you're talking about the output of several large nuclear reactors or massive hydro dams just to power one AI training project. And the contrast with us is just mind-boggling, the human brain. Does general intelligence on about 20 watts?
That efficiency gap,
Yeah.
it's astronomical. That's the constraint. Power finding it, delivering it reliably is the big headline. Our current silicon tech is just incredibly thirsty compared to biology. Trying to bridge that gap with brute force means fundamentally reshaping our energy grids.
And this isn't future speculation, it's happening now. Energy agencies are already predicting that data center electricity use worldwide could double by 2030, maybe sooner. And AI is the main driver. Some big AI data centers are planning to quadruple their power needs in just the next few years. If you want planet-scale AGI, you need a whole new global power system, basically.
So thinking like an engineer or a city planner, what does it actually take to make this physically possible, sustainable?
Okay, first, power and grid. You need massive, reliable power lines, new substations, grid upgrades. We're talking dedicated feeds delivering hundreds of megawatts to a single site. And while renewables are great, for training running 2047, you need firm power. That means nuclear, big hydro, maybe natural gas with carbon capture, things that run all the time.
And power is just one part. There's also cooling and water. These chips get incredibly hot.
Yeah, hundreds of watts per chip. You absolutely need liquid cooling, sophisticated systems.
Yeah.
And that often uses water, a lot of water. Training just one huge language model can use hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of liters of water, mostly through evaporation for cooling. Globally, if things keep scaling, AI could be using billions of cubic meters of water within years, unless we get way smarter about efficiency.
So it's not just about carbon footprint, water usage, heat management. These are critical sustainability issues for AI.
Absolutely. We desperately need efficiency gains, hoping Moore's law keeps giving us more computation per watt. But that alone won't cut it with demand soaring. We also need smart siting, building these data centers near existing clean power sources like dams, and finding ways to reuse the waste heat, maybe for heating buildings nearby, district heating systems.
Okay, this physical footprint brings up that classic sci-fi question. If things went really wrong, if an AI became dangerous, could we just pull the plug? How easy is the off switch?
Well, it really depends on how it's set up. If it's one AI, running in one specific data center that you control. Yeah, moderately easy. You cut the power, you cut the network. Game over for that instance.
Just the code, the model waits, get out if it's copied.
Then the whole idea of a physical off switch pretty much disappears. If that model is replicated on servers around the world, maybe open sourced, running on cloud platforms in different countries, there is no single plug to pull. It stops being a technical problem you can solve by flipping a breaker. It becomes a global policy nightmare, like trying to shut down a worldwide, self-replicating computer virus that's smarter than you.
So you can't easily unplug something that's distributed everywhere, especially if it's designed to spread and survive.
Pretty much impossible, technically speaking, once it achieves that scale and distribution. The takeaway from the sources is pretty stark. Any effective control has to happen before it proliferates. Governance needs to focus on keeping the most powerful models contained, maybe using hardware locks, strict monitoring, legal rules while they're still in the lab, while their physical location is known and limited. Once Pandora's box is open and the code is everywhere, technical control is largely gone.
Okay, we've laid out that AGI is speculative but maybe possible, needing huge breakthroughs and resources. Let's circle back to the listener's core question. This anxiety we feel, is it justified or is it overblown?
The consensus in the sources leans pretty clearly towards the fears are not frivolous. We shouldn't just dismiss them. History is just full of examples. The printing press, the internet, social media, where tech had massive, unexpected, society-shaking effects, often in ways the inventors never imagined. So taking seriously the idea that AI could have major impacts, including really negative ones, that seems like the responsible stance.
The biggest immediate worries maybe aren't even the Terminator scenarios that get all the attention.
Right. The sources emphasize the intermediate risks are much more likely, much sooner. Things like massive job disruption, misuse of AI in warfare or for surveillance, concentration of power, economic and political, and just a few companies controlling the tech, and maybe creating weird feedback loops from algorithms optimizing for the wrong things. These risks are less speculative than ASI, and some are already here. Given the stakes, even low probability, high-impact risks need serious thought.
There's also a danger in just focusing on the worst case.
Right.
Getting paralyzed by fear.
Definitely. The risk is that focusing only on, the robot apocalypse distracts us. It pulls talent, money, attention away from fixing the problems we have right now with narrow AI bias and algorithms, privacy invasion, job displacement, algorithmic transparency. Fear can also lead to fatalism, that we're doomed anyway feeling, instead of constructive action to try and steer things towards better outcomes.
And that requires being aware that our own view of good and bad might change. Right. The sources raise this really interesting point. Okay, what scares us now might seem normal, even good later.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Our ethical viewpoint just isn't fixed. It will shift. Think about the Industrial Revolution back then. Massive, totally justified fears about job losses, social chaos, pollution, horrible working conditions. But today, we mostly see it as a net positive for humanity, despite the huge costs paid along the way. Our judgment shifted from the pain of the transition to the long-term benefits.
Or the early internet. So much optimism, empowerment, connection. Now we're hyper-aware of the downsides. Disinformation, surveillance capitalism, privacy erosion. What looked clearly good turned out to be way more complicated, even harmful in some ways.
Exactly. And that's vital context for AI. What seems like a huge risk now, maybe like AI augmenting our brains directly, could become normalized, maybe even seen as necessary later. And things that look purely good now, like perfectly efficient algorithmic management of everything, might turn out to have really problematic consequences for human agency or morality if we just outsource all judgment to optimization machines.
Okay, let's try to synthesize these different levels of concern based on the AI type. What are the real worries at each stage, according to the sources?
Okay. For weak AI, what we have now, immediate risk. The main concerns are things like bias baked into systems, deepfakes spreading misinformation, surveillance. The real worry isn't extinction here. It's more subtle. It's short-term power shifts, economic inequality growing, and this kind of societal drift where we slowly, maybe without noticing, accept more and more algorithm control, more manipulation, more power concentrated in a few hands. It's the risk of the slow slide.
Okay. Then for AGI, midterm risk, the AI that truly rivals human thinking, if it arrives, the risks are about alignment, control. massive economic disruption.
Right. And the real worry there is maybe what you could call the slow catastrophe. It's the danger of us handing over critical judgments, moral, political, strategic, to systems that are just optimizing for numbers, for efficiency, not for empathy or human values. It's the risk that the incentives driving AI development profit speed run way ahead of our ability to build in safety and ethical guardrails.
And finally, ASI, existential risk, superintelligence, uncontrollable power, maybe even accidental human extinction.
Here, the real worry, beyond the sci-fi images, is fundamentally about extreme power asymmetry and runaway speed. The core problem is that our institutions, laws, governments, diplomacy, they change slowly over years or decades. But if recursive self-improvement becomes possible, AI could evolve in months, weeks, maybe even faster. By the time we realize there's a problem, the window to actually do anything about it might have already closed. So the focus has to be on prevention, on governance now, while we still might have time to shape the trajectory. Hashtag outro propopra.
Wow, okay, that was a lot. We've gone from historical prediction failures right up to the gigawatt power needs of hypothetical future minds. Let's try and distill the absolute key findings from all these sources one last time for everyone listening.
Okay. First, we saw that predicting tech itself is one thing, but predicting how society will actually use it, how it will change us, we're historically terrible at that. We can guess broad directions, more AI, but the specifics, the timing, the impact, very hard to call.
Yeah. Second, where we are right now in 2025 is definitely this gray zone. AI demands serious attention, serious governance efforts because the stakes are high. But we have to avoid acting like the future is already decided, especially the doom scenarios. We still have agency.
And third, there's this clear pattern. The closer the AI tech is to today, like narrow AI, the more practical and immediate the risks are: bias, jobs, privacy. The further out the tech, like hypothetical ASI, the bigger and more philosophical the risks become: control, existence, the nature of intelligence itself.
Right. Now let's wrap up, as always, by pushing just a bit beyond the sources. A final thought for you to mull over, thinking maybe 100 years out.
By the time someone listens to this in, say, 21, 25, the whole idea of intelligence might be totally different. Maybe it won't be seen as something one species or one machine has. Maybe it'll be more like a field, an environment, an ambient layer of cognition that we just exist within, rather than something separate from us.
Yeah, the sources hint that if AGI or ASI does arrive, it might not be one big superbrain in a box. It could be this vast distributed network, intelligence woven into everything, everywhere, a planetary scale thing.
And if that's the case, the real test of our era, this moment right now, won't be whether we were clever enough to build intelligence smarter than us. The real test is our ethical maturity, our humility, our ability to reflect. As the sources suggest, if machines start handling the intelligence part, maybe humanity's role shifts. Less about labor, more about meaning. Less about calculation, more about purpose.
Can we build what one source called a reflective humanism, where we prioritize things like emotional depth, empathy, ethical thinking, and make sure the world we build, the intelligence we create, values those things too? That feels like the ultimate question, doesn't it? Can we share the planet with minds we create? And can we build them so they want to share it with us?
If the world a century from now is still a place that values human connection, creativity, maybe wisdom, then we'll have succeeded at the truly hard part. Not just creating intelligence, but learning and teaching it how to coexist.
That is a huge thought to end on. Challenging, necessary. Something we all need to keep thinking about. Thank you for diving deep with us today.